Morning, Brian. Just a serious things. I'll say them real quick. The general health of your team coming into this week, and how it responded to the short week, and what concerns that do you have about this Toledo team that's coming in? Thanks.
Yeah. Well, anytime you lose guys this early in the season, it's a concern. I mean, we have more surgeries, in the first week than you would want to have. So, that's a concern. We cannot continue on this trend of having guys out for the entire season because of year-ending surgery. So we hope that we've gone through that and we're going to trend on the right end of injuries. I think the health of our team relative to the bounce back from getting in at 4:30 in the morning on Monday, our guys have done a great job. They got the rest necessary. Their mindset was great, that they needed to take care of themselves. This was about really rest and nutrition. And I thought they did a great job. We're in a really good place going into Thursday relative to their recovery. And we were, quite frankly, we had to be smart with the way we practiced this week. But, we've prepared them for a really good Toledo team. I think what concerns me the most is, the two quarterback situation again. I think that they are very difficult. They've got a very good scheme that, puts each of those two quarterbacks in a position where they can make plays. They've got receivers that are skilled, run very good routes, but I think their offense is set up with their offensive line. The center, the left guard, the left tackle is their power five offensive linemen. So when you have a really good offensive line, really good scheme offensively, two really good quarterbacks, veteran defensive players that returned from last year. Like I said, this is a very mature football team. 2019, they beat BYU, who we know had some very talented players on. They get your attention. So that's kind of where we're at.
Eric Hansen, you're up next.
Hey, Brian. Sorry to throw a bunch of names at you, but I'm going to follow up on John's question. 6 names. Shane Simon and Fisher, how those MRIs came out. The 3 kids that were unavailable last week, so that would be Diggs, Sebo, and Botello, what their status is for this week. And finally, there were reports that Lawrence Keys was leaving the roster. And I wondered if you could confirm or expand on what's going on with Lawrence.
Yeah. So I might as well just give you the update that I have as of today relative to, we'll start with the injuries. Blake Fisher is just getting out of surgery. He had a meniscus, which is being repaired. So Dr. Radigan is doing that meniscus procedure as we speak. And you know how that runs. A meniscus is probably 8 weeks for him. So we're hopeful that we'll have him back this year. Kevin Bauman had the fibula fracture. He had that surgery yesterday. That was clean. We're hopeful in 6 weeks to have him back. Shane Simon should be coming out of surgery here pretty soon. He had a pretty good labrum tear. We'll lose him for the year. As you know, that's probably a 6 months procedure. Paul Mawala yesterday had the Achilles tendon repair surgery. You know how we feel about that, and our doctors have never seen it in their career, somebody tear both Achilles tendons. So not only is it gut-wrenching and disappointing, but something that they've never seen medically as well. The unavailable players, we have Logan Diggs is back, and he is available to us this week. The 2 unavailable players this week will be Jordan, Botello, and Sebo. Those two will be unavailable this week. And of course, Marist, had his surgery. Lawrence Keys is no longer on our roster. Lawrence has chosen to pursue finishing up his degree. I think Lawrence is, I think he's one semester in my conversation with our academic coordinator who handles those matters. I think he's taking 18 hours this semester, which would allow him to get his degree this semester. And then he's going to evaluate what he wants to do after that, whether football's in the cards for him or not. So other than that, that's where we are with injuries, unavailable, and Lawrence Keys.
Tim O'Malley, you're up next.
Coach, in light of all the linebacker injuries, it seems like you have a 2x2 now across the board of scholarship players. Is there anyone that has to move, or do you have faith in walk-ons to get you through in practice, barring no more injuries?
Yeah, we moved Xavier Watts. Xavier is playing the rover position now. We wanted to strengthen that position. So we feel like with him there, it gives us the ability to cross-train Jack Kaiser at the inside linebacker position in case there is a need there. Prince Colley is moved to the inside linebacker position as well, as you know. And so we think that strengthens us for the long haul for the season in case we do sustain any further injuries down the road. Hopefully, as I said, the injury train kind of comes to a halt. But we felt like that was in our best interests relative to where we are. We feel really good about where we are at the wide receiver position. So we could afford to move a really good player like Xavier, who we felt, had the skills that he could make that jump to defense and contribute this weekend at the rover position.
Chuck Freeby, you're up next.
Brian, can you address the significance of playing on the 20th anniversary of 9/11? And is that something you've discussed with your players, many of whom weren't even born then?
Yeah, I mean, I think playing or not playing, there's incredible significance of 20 years post 9/11. I think it's etched in everybody's mind that saw it on that day. And if you didn't, our guys, it's not ancient history to them, even if they weren't born. They have a family member or somebody that they knew was part of it. And so, it hits close to home to so many people, and Notre Dame in particular will have a celebration, but for a large part, we'll be in the locker room. So we're going to do something on social media that we'll get out here in the next 24 hours that lets everybody know how important it is to us as players, as coaches, as a football program, because sometimes it's like, well, what does it mean to Notre Dame and Notre Dame football? It means a lot. It's an important date, and one that we carry with us every single day and remember it. And it'll always be with us. So we thought it was important that we did something to show, the importance of that 20-year remembrance.
Patrick Engel, you're up next.
Brian, I know the Keys departure and Watts moving brings you down to, I think it's 7 scholarship receivers, but like you said, it sounds like you feel pretty good about that. What have you seen from some of those other guys like a Colsey or a Jaden Thomas or Styles that might now make them have to be involved a little bit more?
Well, we have great confidence in them. Lorenzo will play out at the X with Braden. Joe Wilkins will play in at the slot receiver with Avery. Deion Colsey will now play at the W. With Kevin. Jaden Thomas will be a swing guy. So, we feel really good. Salerno's in there as well. So we feel really good. I mean, I'm excited about, getting a chance to see, those guys, but also, some of the young guys is they get this opportunity to play a little bit more. I think Joe is well suited at the position that he's going to play. More Z, more X, getting Lorenzo on the field, getting Dion on the field. They're ready to play. So let's get them going. As I told Tommy and Dell, it's their time. With the veterans that we have, it's going to be a nice mix and an exciting mix.
Pete Sampson, you're up next. Pete, I think you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
No, I'm good there. I had a question about Isaiah Foskey and sort of his positioning within the defense, and sort of your reaction when Marcus said, like, hey, we'd like to move him almost to like a middle linebacker spot, or an outside linebacker spot. I'm just interested how you reacted to that, because you think of these defensive ends, you're thinking of like, could he be the next Romeo Okwara? Could he be the next Julian Okwara? And then, the role is completely different.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it. I think that, Isaiah Foskey is going to help us, his position will kind of settle itself where, he's going to play off the edge of our defense. Will he play a little bit somewhere else? Certainly. I think there'll be some uncertainty, Pete, in terms of where he lines up, but at the end of the day, he's going to be on the edge of our defense.
Tyler Horka, you're up next.
Hey, Brian, you mentioned Xavier Watts playing Rover. I'm just curious if that decision came about after Paul's injury, or if that was something that was in the cards prior to that, and how he's looked since he's kind of made that transition, and what you think he can provide for you guys there in practices and maybe even beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. One of my jobs is to get really good players on the field, and we had a little bit of a log jam at the wide receiver position, and Xavier is a really good football player, and we need to get good players on the field. And so, finding ways to get him on the field, and then by happenstance, we get banged up at the Rover position, and then Jack gives us some flexibility at Rover and inside backer. So it just strengthened our hand, the injuries. And then, we had been having conversations about finding a role for X, because he's such a fine player and a fine athlete. And so I guess it's a little bit of both, happening at the same time. How did he look? He certainly looks the part. It's going to be early. We're going to play him Saturday. He's going to play Rover. When we get into the right situation, look, he doesn't have all the knowledge of the position. We're going to pick our spots. You're not going to see him line up there in the first play or the first series, but we're going to pick our spots and get him involved. He's involved in more special teams right away now. But we like him. We wouldn't trade him. Let's put it that way. He's a guy that we want on the field. We value him a lot, and this is a way to get him going.